it says chat filter, community. I'm on participation. Anyone. So I'm not really sure why the mic isn't working, guys. Okay. So I'm trying to see if this works. Okay. So just give me 1 second. I don't know what I did when I was on here earlier that I really screwed the pooch. Okay. So what is that? Okay, no, I don't want that. It says top ratings. The camera is on and off. Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. I know what the mean. Okay. I don't know if this is working or not, so we're gonna try this out and see if it'll go. And if not, then I guess I do have a problem, and I'm gonna have to figure this out one way or the other. But right now, currently, I'm having a little bit of technical issues. So let's see. Let's see if it works once I put this in here. Maybe it was just because I was going live with someone else. Hello, can you hear me? Well, I don't know if anybody can hear me, but let's try this out. And then if for any reason it's not working, then I can try and fix it a different way by going to YouTube and asking for them to assist me with the problem. Anyhow, let's talk a little bit about a couple of things that are going on, okay? So let's talk about the food banks. The food banks and what is happening currently. Well, let's start at the top. There's a lot of stuff going on in the government currently. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but let's get into this. So imagine you're applying for to come and live to the United States, and suddenly the government says to you, your health could be a reason to deny you entry, right? So, okay, there we go. So your health could be a reason why we can deny you entry. That's what's happening right now under the new Trump administration policy. The immigration officers are being told to deny visas to people with conditions like diabetes, obesity, heart disease. If you guys can hear me, can you please kind of put hello down below? Hi, everyone. Hello, nice to see you guys. It's nice to see everybody. I'm not really sure. I was having some technical issues earlier in the day because I was on live and nobody could hear me. So if you can't hear me, can you please kind of say something? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me. So it says immigration officers are told to deny visas to people with conditions like diabetes, obesity, and heart disease, saying they might become a public charge. Hi, everyone. Oh, I'm so glad you can hear me. Thank you. Thank you very much for letting me know. This expands beyond infectious disease, like chronic health issues could make you too expensive to be allowed into the country. Lawyers warn this gives untrained officers the power to guess future medical costs and make biased calls about somebody's health. This is a quote from an immigration attorney, okay? By the way, I'm very lonely last month. Can you say Adra? I love you. Ever think it'd be okay, please? Hello, I'm so sorry that I haven't been on lately, guys. I've been on TikTok, but I'm trying to utilize more my YouTube channel for different things. So I'm really going to be on here, and I'm going to bring on other friends that are kind of merging into TikTok, and we're going to talk about politics, a little bit of gossip, and a little bit of rants back and forth, right? So we're going to talk about this. So it says here in a quote from an attorney, they're not medically trained and shouldn't be making projections based on their own personal knowledge or bias. This move fits into a broader plan that Trump, the administration, has to restrict immigration from mass deportations and refugee bans. This is kind of something that we need to start talking about, because once they start restricting who can come into the country, it means they could really deny maybe your green card renewal. I don't know. I mean, at this point in time, everything is up in the air, literally up in the air. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but the times are a little crazy at the moment, so we don't know what's happening, right? So let's talk about this other thing with the ACA Act. The ACA Act is something that's really important, because I heard Mike Johnson say a couple of weeks ago in press conference that they wanted to get rid of the ACA all completely. Now, when he talks about getting rid of the Affordable Care Act, you got to remember that our children are part of the Affordable Care Act, that they are allowed and allotted to stay on our insurances until the age of 26 because of the Affordable Care Act. So when you start talking about getting rid of this, that becomes a problem for us as parents, right? What happens if the subsidies vanish is another thing. Use concrete numbers. We're talking about numbers and how it's going to affect people, right? How it's going to affect them in their day-to-day life. Why redirecting subsidies matters. All these things that are going to happen to all of us is going to be devastating, and people don't seem to grasp the actual the hurt that's going to happen, right? Under the new Trump health plans, they sound simple. They give people cash instead of paying insurance companies. But experts warn that this move could destroy the ACA marketplace by pushing healthy people to cheaper junk plans, leaving sicker folks behind. That's what they call death spiral, right? When coverage gets so expensive that people drop out and the system collapses. The premiums could double, right? Millions could lose coverage. States like California may have to step in again and protect families. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. So it talks about states like California will step in and protect families. Don't let them sell it as freedom. It's set up to weaken healthcare for working families. The other thing is that not only does it weaken health care plans for working families, but it is going to devastate the industry of healthcare in essence, right? So many people, and the studies have been shown in this, and they have been talking about this in a good while, that people will be laid off from the health industry because as they cut, right, the subsidies for healthcare, what can we only believe and imagine when we have health deserts? We have food deserts currently, right? And there is a lot of deserts when it comes to women's healthcare, but imagine rural areas not having hospitals. Here in California, I know for a fact that we've closed at least one hospital that I know of. I'm certain that there's more that they're probably closing. But that is really going to be of essence for all of us. So we have to keep an eye on the Affordable Care Act. But aside from that, we all know that lots of things are happening in the country, and they're just making it seem like it's all okay, no problem. So let's talk about immigration and what happened in the first, I think it's 15 days or so of Guantanamo Bay. Earlier this year, the Trump administration quietly opened a migrant detention center at Guantanamo Bay. Up to 30,000 people were supposed to be held there, but the site never got full. Its peak in February held 178 migrants were detained, mostly from Venezuela. Emails obtained through the Freedom of Information Act shows how rushed and unplanned it was. No clear plan, no system, no concern for the people stuck there. Government workers scrambled. One brought 200 pocket-sized Bibles. Others ordered books for Hindu and all these different types of religions, right? Some men got sick, some were isolated, and most of them eventually were deported. A U.S. watchdog group called it chaos without concern for human cost. So this is what happened at Guantanamo Bay for those first 15 days, right? Guantanamo Bay isn't just a terror suspect anymore. It's being used for migrants fleeing violence, poverty, and a collapse. People just like our families that are being held in these areas. And then people come in the live, right? Like I just got right now that says, Jesus loves you. Well, yeah, I know Jesus loves me. I get it. He loves me very much. But the fact of the matter is, do you know that Jesus loves you? Do you know that Jesus loves all of us, right? Every single human being on this earth. So that is something that we need to start talking about because people get lost in their own world, talking really about a biblical sense when you don't apply it into your life on a daily basis. So let's move on here. Let's talk about politics when it comes to new things that are going on. So, hey, the horse trainer whose horse Shackford won the Pierce Guinness, I think that's what it's called, is now running for U.S. Senate in Kentucky. Okay, the U.S. Senate in Kentucky. He's running himself as an independent Democrat and says Trump tariffs and deportations hurt local jobs, especially since 90% of the Churchill Downs workers are migrants from Mexico and Guatemala. Kentucky hasn't sent a Democrat to the Senate since 1992. But with Mitch McConnell finally retiring, the race is wide open. So I think it's a great party. It's time for change, guys. If we can't, although this individual, let me be honest, this individual is a little on the aged side, like wine. He's a little, kind of touch of a wine. He's a little older, not necessarily the millennials that we want to see in office currently. So let's see how that pans out. Let's see how his primary sections come along, because that's going to be something that's really important. So let's move on to something else. Let's talk about, making America healthy again, because this is something that Robert F. Kennedy, RFK, is talking about out there, right? Big food versus Kennedy, the real fight over what is in our food. So Robert F. Kennedy Make America Healthy Again plan is making big food nervous, and now they're fighting back. Well, it's about time somebody fights back. Major companies like General Mills, Hertz, Kraft and Heinz, PepsiCo are backing a new group called the AFIT, Americans for Ingredient Transparency. But instead of pushing for clearer food, AFIT is pushing Congress to give the FDA full control over food regulation, taking away power from states like California, Texas, and West Virginia have used to ban artificial dyes and ultra-processed foods in schools. Why does this matter? States have been leading the charge to protect kids' health. California banned certain ultra-processed foods, and West Virginia outlawed 7 food dyes. If big food wins, those bans could disappear, and local control would be replaced by slower-moving federal laws. In Kennedy's words, they're terrified of what you're doing, he told West Virginia's governor earlier this year. This is a showdown, grassroots moms, advocates, and corporate lobbyists. Don't trust the state-led food safety laws? Or should you take the feds? Who do you want? Do you want your state and your local officials protecting your food, or do you want the federal government to be in charge of all of it? This comes to a local decision, and you are going to have the last word as constituents. So we have to make our voices be heard. But that means that we have to go out and actually vote, right? So here's another one. Trump quietly pardons a Republican congresswoman's husband convicted of healthcare fraud. There we go. Robert Hasburger Jr., husband of Representative Diana Hasburger from Tennessee, Republican, got a presidential pardon from Trump last week. He pleaded guilty to a 2013 to healthcare fraud and selling misbranded kidney medication imported from China, not approved by the FDA. Fuck me, man. The drugs were sold through a company where his wife was listed as an officer. Look at that now. Though she denied involvement during her campaign, Trump endorsed Diana in all of her campaigns, calling her an unapologetic conservative Trump Republican. The White House didn't publicly announce the pardon. It appeared quietly on the Department of Justice's website. Trump also pardoned other allies, including former Tennessee lawmaker convicted of corruption and ex-baseball player Darryl Strawberry. So Trump's out here handing pardons again, this time to a husband of one of the Republican allies from Tennessee. Dude was convicted of healthcare fraud, selling kidney medication from China, and the White House didn't even announce it. It's just popped up online. Meanwhile, Trump is calling her loyal conservative warrior, sounds like loyalty or justice. I mean, I guess you got to be in a certain part of a team to have all these perks of, fucking up and getting it written off because it's a-okay because you're loyal to me. We're friends. Over 42 million people in the United States depend on SNAP to buy food. And new rules just made it harder. Did you know that SNAP, the program that helps millions of families buy groceries, is changing again under the Trump law? Well, here's what's happening. SNAP helps 1 in 8 families put food on the table but starting November 1st, able-bodied adults 18 to 64 must work at least 80 hours a month or volunteer or study to keep their benefits. So that's the deal. Caregivers now only qualify if they're caring for kids 14 and under, not 18. I think that's bullshit because actually taking care of kids gets more difficult as they get towards the 18 years of age because you're worried about what they could get into. Veterans, people without housing, and those aging out of foster care, they've lost their exemptions too. So that's another thing. The Congressional Budget Office says that up to 2.4 million people could lose food aid. Even though the economy's recovered, food insecurity is still hitting working families hard, especially with high prices and uneven wages. So that's kind of interesting. Focus on too many things. Why doesn't everyone unite to get more holidays? We get 30. I don't know. I really don't know. Americans, we're all lost right now. Honestly, in all sincerity, I believe that we're lost and in the middle of a fighting spout. Give me 1 second. Okay, so let's move on to the other section of the stories here because there's a lot of stuff going on, okay? No wonder why everyone is nuts down there. Yeah, we're lost. I'm gonna be honest with you. There is one group of people working for a national boycott, but if you understand the United States, it's so large, right? 50 states, from one coast to the other coast, and people expect everyone to go out there and boycott at once together when we have people making minimum wage at $5.15. Many people don't understand that. People will sometimes say to you, but why don't you boycott? What is holding you up? What's preventing you of doing this? So when I tell you that there are states that their minimum wage is $5.15, and then other states have what they call suggested minimum wage. Suggested. That means they have no minimum wage. And then there are states like Virginia that pays their food servers, waitresses and waiters $2.65 an hour. Tell me how anyone can make a living, right? The problem, Congress is owned by corporations, so protesting is pointless. I agree 100%. I believe that you have to, and this is something that I've been talking to my friends about, we have to go after the low-hanging fruit first in stages because people have never really done work of this nature. So go after the low-hanging fruit, meaning if you know that this company is conjoined with this other one, right, that is doing something bad, stop buying from them. You vote every day with your money, For me, I have canceled Hulu, I have canceled Disney, I have canceled Paramount, I have canceled Peacock. Why? Because our voices matter and freedom of speech is really important. So go after the low-hanging fruit and cancel that stuff first and then move your way up in escalation. You can't ask everyone to give up beer cold turkey, right? Because some people are just, well, I need my beer. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you guys. So let's move on to the next story. It talks about Rudy Giuliani and another pardon. So we just talked about one pardon. This is another pardon. So President Trump just dropped in a full and unconditional pardon for Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, Sidney Powell, and other allies tied to the effort to overturn his 2020 election. I'm doing great. How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's doing well. These pardons only apply to federal crimes, and none of them were federally charged. So the move is mostly symbolic, but still politically explosive, right? Experts warn this sends a dangerous message that trying to overturn an election could get you rewarded instead of punished. I wonder if the Democrats went out there and tried to overturn an election, would they be treated the same way? Would they be getting pardons? Would they release 1,500 people that were in jail because they stormed the Capitol? Or would we all be inside a cell in Guantanamo Bay? That's an interesting question that kind of, roams in my head every now and then. So the other thing is that Trump framed the pardons as part of a national reconciliation, but legal scholars say it normalizes election subversion. Even with the pardons, Giuliani is still in hot water. Disbarred in New York City and DC and owes $148 million for defamation of Georgia election workers. So Trump's out here pardoning the same crew that tried to overturn the 2020 election, and it's like telling everyone, hey, if you mess up with democracy, I got your back. It's really insane, guys. People need to learn how to make money of politics instead of just taking care of beat them at their own game. I made $2,000 because Trump tanked the market with the tariffs. Kudos to you. Seriously, if you can make money and you have the ability to do it, wonderful. Take it on. Take on the system because this is bullshit. Frankly, I'm rooting for the underdog. I'm rooting for this shit to all collapse and then we can rebuild it in a way that will suit everyone because people are really suffering out there. And then I'm going to read a story about SNAP and how Los Angeles County has kind of seen this. So the SNAP mesh shows how fragile the LA food system really is. If you guys don't understand, California does feed a good portion of the country with fruits and vegetables. And when Los Angeles is seeing that the food system is really fragile, that's a problem for the nation. And people should be paying attention. So LA, you've seen the lines at the food banks, right? That's what happens when federal SNAP funding gets delayed. Over 1.5 million people in LA County depend on CalFresh, but DC drama's cutting payments. Our local markets went quiet. USC says 1 in 4 Angelenos struggled to afford food last year. Low-income families, it's about 4 to 10. Even when the aid arrives, healthy food is still out of reach for many, and the stress of diabetes and heart disease rises. LA can't keep living on the edge. Food is not luxury, it is a right, and I agree with that 100%. So we need to start looking at those things too. That's my point, that everyone's telling everyone to their face where their money goes on TV, and that's, yeah, I agree. Listen, closing the federal government, I thought was the best game plan that we had to save ourselves at this point in time. But Chuck Schumer saying, I'm reopening it, and these are the Democrats that can vote for it because they're not up for re-election. I thought that was a straight hit to the gut, and they're not going to forget. They're going to be upset for a while. And when they believe, or they start to believe that we have forgotten, we're not going to forget, because there's going to be people like me who are going to remind everyone that, hello, you voted to open the government and fuck us all over. I think that the gloves are off, and I've never seen people so politically involved as I have now. Meaning everyone's really paying attention to Congress, to the Senate, to the committees, where before we used to sit in front of the TV and just stream for hours and hours, mindlessly. I think things are really changing, and I'm really happy about that. Because if we don't, we're going to be lost for many years. So here's another thing. And this one I have a particular problem. As a former Catholic, I have a real problem with this one, because right now you have Catholic priests screaming, hey, immigration, you're doing this wrong. You're hitting people the wrong way. However, I'm going to use foul language. However, these bitches, they were the ones that kind of, coerced or influenced people to go ahead and vote for Donald Trump. So here we go. Big shift at the U.S. Catholic Church, and it's happening under Trump's second term. The nation's Catholic bishops just picked Archbishop Paul Coakley of Oklahoma City as the new president, a move that signals a hard turn to the right. Yep, to the right. Coakley is known for his strict stance on abortion and LGBTQ issues and his ties to conservative Catholic power circles. That to me is a wild thought, okay? Even with the divisions inside the church, the bishop says they're still united when it comes to defending migrant rights. Bullshit. Bullshit. I call bullshit. Standing up for the rights to worship and due process, even though the Trump administration ramps up immigration enforcement. Some churches' leaders are warning that Coakley's election could increase tensions with Pope Leo, who's been continuing Pope Francis's focus on compassion, the environment, and marginalized people. The question now is, will the U.S. bishops actually challenge Trump's policies on immigration or stay quiet while they are claiming moral authority? See, for me, being a former Catholic, I believe mind your damn business, because tomorrow will be the day that you will meet your maker, and your maker will tell you whether you did good or you did bad. But these Catholic bishops here not in California, but all over the nation, are really the problem and why we have Trump in the White House. Why? Because they influence their people to vote this way because of abortion and LGBTQ community issues. I'm sorry, if you're not a woman and you don't have a reproductive system, why are you speaking on abortion? And what does it matter to you? And I say this as a married woman, but a former single mom. Nobody came to help me. Nobody came to rescue me when I needed the most help. I did it all on my own. Yes, I had my child. Of course I did. Because I'm Catholic and I believe that, I had to do the right thing. But I don't need the government to tell me what to do with my body if I already know what I have to do morally in my own thoughts, okay? And that's really important. So I believe that not only church, but the government needs to stay out of my body. Anyhow, guys, we'll catch up later. I just wanted to come in and try out this thing to make sure that it worked, because earlier it wasn't working. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.